Welcome one, welcome all to the inaugural episode of the Glimmer Gang Podcast. We are a competitive-based podcast for the newest TCG Disney Lorcana from Ravensburger. Welcome to episode 1, and we hope you all enjoy. Everyone, take it away. Hey guys, what's going on? How are we doing today?
Doing well.
Pretty good.
Very, very good, sir.
So, for all of our first-time listeners out there, we are also glad to be here today for our first episode. To kick things off, we're just going to go around and introduce ourselves and where we hail from and our experiences in TCGs, and get into our first topic, which is going to be an overview of the podcast and what to look forward to. So I'm going to kick it over to our first co-host, Sean, to get it going.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Sean, a.k.a. Lee Barbs, on all of my socials and on games. I come from northern Michigan, middle of a blizzard right now. It's pretty nice. I love the snow, personally. Some fun facts about me are I am a father of 2. My oldest is 11, and he plays Digimon with me, my current favorite TCG. I've also been a cook for over 15 years, and I will be a sous chef come next year, so that's pretty exciting. My history with TCGs are I started with Magic the Gathering when I was around 13 years old. My older cousin taught me how to play. Took me to my first sealed event. I did horribly, had no idea what I was doing, but you know, we've come pretty far. As a casual player, I've played Magic the Gathering. I played the now defunct Transformers TCG. And currently am playing Digimon competitively. I have been doing that for the past year. I am currently my local's store champ, which is pretty nice. Got bragging rights if nothing else. The first thing that caught my eye about Lorcana was the nostalgia factor. It's all these things that I grew up with, all these things that I remember from my childhood loving so much. So it touched a really good spot. And, of course, Ryan Miller, because he's amazing and he's created some really cool stuff for the TCG space. That's about it for me. I'm going to pass it over to Levram.
I am Blake, or as most know me on the Discords, Levram. I live in the greater Toronto area, also dealing with some fun snow right now. Basically, been living here for a year. I used to live in the States. I used to be Florida born and raised, and spent a lot of time with Disney down there. As far as TCGs, while I have next to zero competitive play experience for myself, I have been playing TCGs for as long as I can remember, starting with Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! With a little bit of Magic, and the original Digimon card game from the early 2000s. And then I stopped with physical TCGs, and I started playing a lot of digital, such as Hearthstone, Shadowverse, and other games of that ilk. And currently playing a lot of Marvel Snap. I've been loving that, and still keeping some loose tabs on other games. But as far as Lorcana goes, I'm just very excited to jump back into the physical collecting aspect and playing for myself, and just taking this opportunity to really jump headfirst into something brand new, and just pushing myself to be more active and participate more in this sort of community. So that's all I have about me. So how about Spencer?
Hey y'all, I'm Spencer, also known as Sneaky Buffalo on pretty much anything that I do or play. I'm from Louisiana, hence the y'all. Moved around a lot though, so I lived in Chicago, Philadelphia, Texas, Florida. So I've gotten to see a lot of different places. Fun facts about me, nothing really TCG related, but I don't know how to ride a bike, and no, you can't teach me. All right, y'all, so history with TCGs. Let's see. So how I got started was with Pokemon trading card game when I was little bitty, playing in the kiddie corner at Books A Million. And then progressed on from there to Yu-Gi-Oh! Still in the kiddie corner at Books A Million. let me tell you, when I came home one time and that Books Million was no longer a Books Million, I was very sad. I then progressed over to Magic shortly after and started playing at my local card shop. And I spent pretty much every weekend of my youth that I wasn't playing a football game at the local card store. And yeah, that was really just my entire childhood. As soon as I went off to college, kind of took a back seat, stopped playing for a long time, moved back home after moving around a lot, wanted to get back into some TCGs, and I really didn't want to get into Magic again. So I jumped into My Hero had just recently dropped, and I love the show, so I got into it. But sadly, we just weren't really able to build enough of a meta locally. And while I enjoyed playing webcam, and I did pretty much every webcam event they had for the first year, I got burnt out on the webcam. So stopped playing that. Let's get into some wargaming stuff. So I kind of set TCGs on the side, but then I have no idea where I even saw it, but I saw Lorcana pop up and instantly fell in love because there's the nostalgia factor, of course, like Sean mentioned, but then just the IP, I knew it was going to be big as long as they were able to make a good game around it. And I knew that I'd be able to build something locally and be able to go from there. And I just wanted to get in as much as I could. I wanted to jump in and dive in and really get into it. And so that's what I'm here. That's what I'm doing. So what about you, Teddy? What you got for us?
So as Spencer just said, my name is Teddy. I'm known as Teddy_JPEG online, so no difference. The same there. I hail from the Chicagoland area, but also live in the Indiana region for college. That leads into my interesting fact. I am a college freshman. I am one of the younger ones. You will find me in this Lorcana community. For being 18, I am known as a baby in this realm, I would say. My history with TCGs, I played Pokemon for about 5 years competitively. That was my main game. I did take a break during COVID just because there really wasn't much going on, which was unfortunate, but it was a good break from the game. But then I came back, and as I entered college, it was kind of just time to set down TCGs for a while for me. At least I thought it was. And so I set it down, sold all my cards, didn't really have an interest in picking up one for a while. But then I don't remember how I saw Lorcana, honestly, either. And I caught my eye. It was like right after D23 and all those cards were released. And I'm like, okay, here we go. I am at a starting point to a new game. I can make this really cool. And I was all in. I have been a part of the Lorcana HQ Discord, which I suggest all of our listeners go check out. And it's an amazing place. That is where we all met. And I think it's pretty cool that something like that can bring us together. But yeah, that is what caught my eye about Lorcana and what I'm looking forward to it. So now we're going to get into our little intro topic for our very first episode. What this podcast is, it's called the Glimmer Gang. We came up with the idea in a group chat. And how did that group chat come about? Well, I posted in Lorcana HQ Discord that if anybody had any competitiveness or any interest in the competitive side of Lorcana, DM me. And these three were the first to DM me. And I'm like, okay, let's make a podcast. So I asked all of them if they wanted to do it. They said yes. And, here we are today recording our first episode. And it was just kind of cool, like I said, to see something be created out of nothing out of four random dudes in a Discord. And we really had never met before. None of us knew each other. And I think it's the power of Discord. Something so random can flourish into something so cool. So with that being said, and with a little intro to the podcast, like I've said before, we are a competitive podcast. That is our goal, talk about all things competitiveness, and just to make sure that everyone is on the same page as competitiveness and we give the best content we can. So speaking of content, we all have had our ideas about what we want this podcast to look like and what we want the future to be. So what are the ideas we've said? I know we have some ideas like going over the basics of why a competitive scene is important, comparing and contrasting other TCGs. And that is something we all have talked about, and I know we all also have other ideas for the podcast. So, what do you guys think? What are some good things that we'll be covering in this podcast?
Yeah, so Teddy, you mentioned that we're going to be going over some getting into the basic type stuff, which I think is super important for any TCG player, whether they're new or have a lot of competitive experience themselves, because it's never bad to just refresh your basics. And then from there, obviously it's a competitive cast, so I think we're going to be doing a lot of following of the competitive scene of Lorcana in general. Once we have more information about their organized play and what their format is, following different tournaments, seeing what's going on, seeing who's winning, seeing what decks are doing, and of course doing different, deck profiles and breakdowns and things of that nature. Basically all the stuff you'd expect from a competitive podcast, on top of all the other, fun little stuff we might have in store.
Okay, as far as what I want to get out of this podcast, as I've said, I've pretty much got like no real competitive experience. So for me, a lot of what I want from this podcast is basically kind of how to get into it and how to get into the competitive scene, and basically how to get into that from the start, how to interact with your local game stores. Where do you go to in order to get into these things? Where do you go to for tournaments? How do you get in? And basically being there to help new people like me along the way get into this scene, especially since I anticipate that we're going to see a lot of new people getting into TCGs for the first time with Lorcana.
Yeah, I could see us going as far as putting on having content that's almost boot camp. You know what I mean? Like, hey, this is how you improve. If you want to go just from playing at your kitchen table, you might be able to make it, And another thing that I'm really looking forward to is possibly interviewing some of the top players and stuff like that, even judges, maybe stuff like that, so you can get a real in-depth look at the competitive scene for Lorcana.
Yeah, I think we all have stuff we want to get out of this, and none of us disagree that this is going to be a challenge, but we are all here for it. We're all here for the competitive scene of Lorcana, and even if you are a collector or you're a competitive player, this is a place where hopefully we can bring more people together. We can show you guys a behind-the-scenes look of what it takes to be a competitive card game and what we will have in the future to look forward to. Now, for a little, it's going to be a shorter episode, just because our intro episode. And our last little thing is just going to be, what is our purpose in this podcast as a group, but individually? And for me, as a group, I'm excited to have a great group of people to record this podcast. I can confidently say that 3 out of 4 of us, this is our first podcast ever doing, and it may be a little of a rocky road. Rocky Road isn't the best ice cream, I will say that. But it may be a little of a rocky road for us as we go on this adventure, but we are all looking forward to it. And as individually, I just want to be able to cover something. I am currently a journalism student at my university, so this is kind of right up my alley, and I'm pretty excited for it to be able to come in and create content for everybody in the Lorcana community to be able to enjoy and to be able to watch and listen to. So, what do you guys have? What is your purpose for this podcast?
Well, one of my big purposes, going back to what Levram was talking about with wanting to learn the game and get into the competitive scene and what else involved and what that takes, is I think that a podcast like this and other content creation is super important for lowering that barrier of entry to people. It's allowing more people to experience the game in different ways. And, while we focus in on the competitive aspect, it's allowing all those people, the collectors, the more casual players, to get the information that they need in order to dip their hands into the competitive pool and, see if it's something for them, see if they like it, and just giving people the information they need to be able to play the game however they want to be able to play it. And I think that's super important. I think it's super cool just being able to help people grow and, get into this game that we're all super, super excited about.
The purpose I have for this podcast is for the exposure to Lorcana. Like he just said, it needs to touch as many people as possible if it wants to be successful. And I guess looking at it from an individual standpoint, exposure for myself, even because I'm starting down a road of content creation myself. So I figure being out there in as many avenues as possible is probably a great idea.
Agreed.
Yeah, kind of the same deal for me. This is all very new for me, the competitive side and content creation as a whole. So I am just very excited to be on this adventure with you guys and just to see how far that we get to take this.
Yeah, so I think we are all definitely looking forward to competitive play as a whole. I think we can all agree on that. And we are also ready to bring all of our wonderful listeners a great podcast. And we hope you guys enjoyed our little first episode, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks everyone for listening, and we all hope you enjoyed the first episode. This is the first in our opening release of 3, so look out for the next 2 soon. If you have any comments or suggestions, feel free to reach out to us on our socials. Thanks, and Glimmer on.